Before you check that phone, before you scroll, tap, swipe, or even speak to another human being, you better make sure the first voice you agree with is God's. Because let me tell you something, the first voice you agree with in the morning sets the tone for your destiny. You've been waking up, reacting when God called you to wake up, ruling. You've been opening your day with stress, news, distractions, and anxiety. But today, we flip the switch. Today, you rise with revelation. You walk in authority. You activate heaven's blueprint before hell has a chance to speak. This isn't just a feel-good message. This is a divine download. Because when you start with God, you don't have to chase anything. Everything that's meant for you will chase you. That's why I'm about to hand you a morning prayer so powerful. It doesn't just cover your day. It commands your day. It doesn't just ask for blessings. It invites God's presence to take over completely. Now, I want you laser focused. Don't just watch this. Declare it. Comment below right now. I refuse to start my day without God's presence. Say it like you mean it. Type it in faith. Because when you publicly declare, you privately shift. Let's go. Your whole day is about to be rewritten by the power of your first prayer. The first voice you agree with in the morning sets the tone for your destiny. The moment your eyes open, the war begins. Not out there and here in your mind, your spirit, your atmosphere. And the first voice you choose to agree with determines the rhythm, the posture, and the prophetic direction of your entire day. That voice might be fear. That voice might be fatigue. That voice might be doubt. But if you don't make a conscious decision to align yourself with the voice of God first, every other voice will try to hijack your destiny before you even brush your teeth. See, this is what most people don't understand. Your morning agreement is not neutral, it's spiritual. When you wake up and the first voice you hear is a news headline, a text notification, a reminder of your bank account, or a worry about what you didn't finish yesterday, guess what? You've just entered into agreement with a reality beneath your calling. You've just said yes to a world that wants to distract you from your assignment. That's not just a bad habit. That's spiritual sabotage. But when you choose to agree with God first, when you open your mouth and say, Lord, thank you for waking me up. I know you have purpose in this day. I trust that you're guiding every step. You've already defeated the whisper of fear before it even had a chance to speak. You've already chosen faith over fear, purpose over panic, power over pressure. Why is this so important? Because agreement is access. The voice you agree with gives you access to its fruit. If you agree with anxiety, your mind will become a breeding ground for confusion. If you agree with negativity, your spirit will attract delay, discouragement, and defeat. But if you agree with the word of God, you grant heaven legal access to orchestrate favor, wisdom, clarity, strength, and supernatural acceleration. When God created the world, he spoke and things shifted. And when you wake up and speak in agreement with his voice, you're not just praying, you're creating. You are literally shaping a spiritual atmosphere around you before anything else tries to. Most people go into the day reacting. They wait to see how the world treats them before they decide what mood to wear. But when you agree with God first, you don't react to life, you command it. Now, here's what most people miss. The devil doesn't fear your alarm clock. He fears your agreement. He fears a person who doesn't just wake up, but rises with revelation. He fears someone who knows that they have the authority to call things that are not as though they were. So he tries to beat you to the punch. That's why the enemy fills your morning with noise. Because he knows if he can hijack your first agreement, he can distort your direction. That's why many of you wake up with heavy thoughts, sudden fears, and strange feelings. It's not random, it's strategic. But when you recognize it, you can reverse it. The first thing out of your mouth in the morning should not be, oh no, another day, or I'm so tired, or I hope today goes better. That's agreeing with defeat. That's putting your signature on a contract that hell wrote overnight. But instead, when you say, this is the day that the Lord has made, I will rejoice and be glad in it, you just signed heaven's blueprint over your day. Now let me make it plain. If the first voice you hear is your emotions, you'll walk by sight. If the first voice you hear is the culture, you'll walk by trends. If the first voice you hear is a lie from the pit of hell, you'll walk by fear. But if the first voice you hear is God's voice through his word, through prayer, through praise, you will walk by faith. And faith is the currency of destiny. So don't just wake up physically, wake up spiritually. Don't just get out of bed, get into alignment. Don't just start the day, start the agreement, because your destiny is not shaped by how much you hustle or how busy your schedule is. Your destiny is shaped by the voice you agree with first. And when that voice is God's, everything else starts falling into order. When you start with God, you don't chase blessings. Blessings chase you. There's a system in the spirit that most people miss. See, the kingdom of God doesn't operate like the world. The world teaches you that in order to succeed, you've got to run harder, grind longer, chase opportunities, and worry constantly. But in the kingdom, the system is reversed. When you prioritize God first, not second, not when it's convenient, not after everything else is handled. You don't have to run after favor. Favor runs after you. The reason so many people feel exhausted and unfulfilled is because they've been chasing what they were meant to attract. They've been running after blessings that were supposed to be assigned to them. You were never meant to beg for what heaven already reserved under your name. But if God is not first, then nothing in your life can come into divine order. And when things are out of order, blessings become burdens, opportunities turn into obligations, and peace is replaced with pressure. But when you start your day and your life with God at the center, something supernatural happens. His presence begins to magnetize what's meant for you. Doors begin to open, not because you forced them, but because He framed them. Connections begin to form, not because you worked your way there, but because He assigned people to find you. Provision starts to flow, not because you manipulated it, but because you positioned yourself under the spout where the glory pours out. Psalm 23 says, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life." That's not poetic, that's prophetic. God said, if you follow Him, blessings will follow you. Not just money, but strategy, not just favor, but divine partnerships, not just open doors, but the wisdom to walk through them. But the promise is conditional. You've got to put Him first. Starting with God is not a religious duty. It's a wealth principle. It's a favor activator. It's a spiritual protocol that triggers kingdom outcomes. The world tells you to get up and check the markets. The world tells you to get up and check your email, but heaven tells you seek first the kingdom and all these things will be added. That's not motivational fluff. That's divine economics. You weren't created to strive. You were created to flow. But flow only comes when the river starts at the right source. And that source is God Himself. You weren't designed to carry everything on your back. You were designed to carry His presence and let His presence carry you. That's why the most powerful thing you can do in the morning is surrender, not to weakness, but to wisdom. Because when you give God the first of your time becomes multiplied. When you give God the first of your voice becomes anointed. When you give God the first of your thoughts, your mind becomes renewed. People around you will wonder why everything you touch prospers. They'll see doors opening, contracts signing, favor flowing, and they'll think it's your strategy. But they won't know that before your hands moved, your knees bowed. Before your phone rang, your mouth prayed. Before your schedule got full, your spirit got filled. You stopped chasing things that were already in pursuit of you, and you started dwelling in the secret place of the Most High. You don't need to stress over visibility when heaven already sees you. You don't need to market yourself into exhaustion when the Spirit of God is already speaking your name in rooms you haven't entered yet. You don't need to beg for what you were born to carry, but you do need to seek Him first. Because when you start with God, blessings don't have to be chased. They start chasing you. Prayer isn't a ritual. It's a spiritual strategy for divine success. We've been taught to pray like it's a box to check, like it's a religious obligation or a quiet moment of personal reflection. But prayer is not passive, and it's not just a soft whisper in the corner of your room. Prayer is a weapon. Prayer is power. Prayer is strategy from heaven, downloaded into the spirit of man. It's not something weak people do to feel better about themselves. It's something powerful people use to win battles before they ever show up in the natural. Prayer is how you step into the boardroom of heaven and receive executive instructions for your life on earth. This is why the enemy doesn't mind if you go to church, read a book, or listen to a sermon as long as you don't pray. Because the enemy knows prayer is the only thing that gives you direct access to divine intelligence, the only thing that gives you undeniable clarity, the only thing that shifts dimensions. Prayer is not you begging God to do something. Prayer is you aligning yourself with what He's already done. It's not trying to persuade God. It's partnering with God. And when you treat prayer like a spiritual strategy instead of a religious routine, your whole life changes. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop guessing and start hearing. You stop stumbling and start walking in step with divine timing. Because prayer is where instructions are released. Prayer is where your assignment is clarified. Prayer is where ideas are born and distractions are broken. That's why when you begin your day in prayer, you're not just making time for God. You're activating the strategy for supernatural success. The problem is that most people approach prayer like it's an emotional outlet instead of a covenant connection. But God never called you to just vent your frustrations in prayer. He called you to get solutions. And solutions don't come through panic. They come through alignment. Prayer aligns your spirit, silences the noise, clears your vision, and prepares your heart to hear heaven's blueprint for your day. It's the spiritual discipline that unlocks natural results. You can hustle all day, but if you don't pray, you're hustling blind. You can plan and post and pursue all you want, but if your plans weren't birthed in the presence of God, they will burn out in the pressure of life, because without prayer, you don't have power. You only have potential. And potential without prayer is like a loaded weapon with no trigger. It's possible, but it's not powerful. What makes it powerful is that moment in the morning when you tune into what God is already doing and say, Lord, I align myself with you. Prayer is strategy. It's where you get your assignments, your answers, your timing, your boldness. It's where your soul gets recalibrated and your mind gets detoxed. It's where heaven speaks and hell trembles. That's why the most dangerous person is not the one who knows the most, but the one who prays first. Because when you pray first, God speaks first. And when God speaks first, everything else falls in line. Command your morning or the enemy will corrupt it. Every day you wake up, you step onto a battlefield. It might look like a normal schedule, a list of tasks, some emails and meetings, but in the spirit realm, it's warfare. And the side that wins is the one that commands the end atmosphere first. If you don't open your mouth and speak over your morning with authority, the enemy will gladly fill the silence. He'll fill it with doubt. He'll fill it with confusion. He'll fill it with distraction and chaos. And you'll wonder why your whole day feels off when in reality you gave him the microphone because you never spoke first. Commanding your morning is not hype. It's honoring heaven's authority. It's looking at your day and saying, I am the head and not the tail. I walk in power. I cancel every assignment of the enemy before it manifests. I declare peace over my mind, favor over my steps, and wisdom in every decision I make today. That's not motivational talk. That's spiritual governance. You're taking authority over time, over territory, over your temple, and over your tasks. There's a difference between living in the day and living above the day. People who live in the day are subject to its pressures, its problems, and its people. But those who command their morning rise above it, because you don't wait to see how the day unfolds. You speak how it's going to unfold. That's prophetic alignment. That's kingdom protocol. That's what Jesus meant when he said, speak to the mountain. He didn't say, wait until the mountain crushes you and then ask for help. He said, command it to move. When you command your morning, you shift the spiritual forecast before the enemy has a chance to set the climate. You declare things that haven't happened yet as if they already have. You stop hell from hijacking your peace. You place a spiritual shield over your purpose. You activate angelic assistance. You take dominion over your environment. And that dominion doesn't come by accident. It comes by discipline. It comes by a daily decision to speak before the storm speaks to you. The enemy doesn't fear a busy person. He fears a bold person. He fears someone who doesn't wait for circumstances to tell them how to feel, but someone who tells their circumstances who their God is. He fears a believer who wakes up and says, I'm not moved by what I see. I'm moved by what God said. That person is untouchable. That person is unshakable. That person is a spiritual commander, not a passive bystander. And when that kind of person opens their mouth in the morning, the entire day bows in submission to the word of God released through their voice. One moment in God's presence can solve what hours of effort can't. There is a supernatural acceleration that happens in the presence of God that no amount of hustle, intellect, or planning can reproduce. 1 second in the throne room can release clarity you've been begging for over weeks of confusion. One divine whisper can unravel knots in your mind that therapy, strategy, and long conversations couldn't touch. Because God doesn't operate on man's timeline. He operates on eternal positioning. What seems impossible for man is a non-issue in his presence. What seems impossible for man is a non-issue in his presence. People spend their entire lives running after results when God is offering a moment of divine encounter that could unlock everything they've been chasing. But you have to value his presence. You have to seek him not just for outcomes, but for intimacy, because it's in his presence that burdens melt, chaos gets quiet, and what was crooked becomes straight. You might be trying to push through a financial storm, a relationship crisis, a career blocker, mental warfare, and nothing is moving. But one moment in prayer, one sincere cry of worship, one act of submission in the secret place, and suddenly things begin to shift. There's a reason the enemy doesn't mind. If you stay busy with good things, as long as you stay away from God things, he doesn't mind effort. He fears encounter. He doesn't mind motion. He fears presence. Because once you get into the presence of God, all of hell loses its grip. The strongholds that held you begin to crumble. The lies that paralyze you are silenced. The decisions you were too afraid to make become clear. You move from striving to flowing, from questioning to knowing, from surviving to soaring. That's why the secret to success is not just what you know or who you know. It's how often you enter the presence of the one who knows all. And the beautiful thing is, his presence is not reserved for the elite or the perfect. It's open to the hungry, the humble, the willing. You don't have to beg for it. You just have to make room for it. You just have to slow down long enough to say, God, I can't do this without you. Show up. And when he does, one moment with him can do what your best efforts never could. Don't wait for peace. Pray it into existence the moment you wake up. Peace doesn't show up by accident. It doesn't drift into your room while you're checking your phone and worrying about the day ahead. Peace is intentional. It's commanded. And if you don't pray it into existence, you'll wait for it all day while chaos rules your mind. God already said he gives peace that passes understanding, but you've got to activate it. You've got to open your mouth before the pressure opens it. The enemy knows if he can get to your peace first, he can disrupt everything else. Because when peace is gone, clarity disappears. When peace is gone, anxiety takes over. When peace is gone, fear becomes louder than faith. That's why you don't wait for peace to feel convenient. You demand it in the spirit the moment your feet hit the ground. You speak it over your mind. You declare it over your house. You prophesy it into your schedule. The world says peace comes when things calm down, but the kingdom says peace comes when you pray it up, because true peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the presence of God in the middle of it. You don't need the storm to stop to have peace. You need to remember who's in the boat with you. And when you choose peace, you choose power, you choose perspective, you choose not to be ruled by circumstance, but by the covenant. And the moment you pray it in, it takes root, it sets the tone, and it keeps you grounded no matter what comes at you during the day. The world reacts to people who rise with revelation, not routine. There's a massive difference between waking up with a checklist and waking up with clarity from heaven. People who move in routine only manage what's in front of them, but people who rise with revelation shift what's around them. Routine gets you through the day. Revelation gives you authority over the day. And the reason many people feel invisible, unheard, or stuck is not because they lack talent. It's because they've been relying on routine instead of receiving fresh revelation. The world is filled with noise. Everyone's repeating what they heard someone else say. But when you rise with revelation, when you spend time in the presence of God and let him speak something directly into your spirit, your voice carries weight. Your actions carry impact. Your decisions are not random. They're prophetic. And that kind of power can't be faked. It can't be outsourced. It only comes from encountering God before encountering the world. When you start your day chasing tasks, you're a responder. But when you start your day receiving revelation, you become a commander. You're not tossed by opinions or distracted by chaos because you already heard what heaven is doing today. That revelation sets you apart. That revelation opens doors without titles. That revelation gives you insight others can't see, solutions others can't find, and boldness others can't fake. The enemy wants you stuck in routine because routine keeps you predictable. But revelation makes you dangerous. Routine follows a pattern. Revelation creates a new one. Routine might get applause from people, but revelation gets alignment with God. And that alignment is where the real favor is. That's where the supernatural multiplication happens. That's where you walk into rooms and things shift because you're not just present, you're sent. The world doesn't need another person just checking boxes. It needs voices that carry divine strategy, moves that carry spiritual weight, and decisions that are rooted in something higher than logic. That's what happens when you stop just going through the motions and start seeking divine revelation before anything else. You can't win the day with a defeated spirit. Speak victory early. If you don't declare victory the moment you rise, defeat will start speaking for you. The battlefield of the day starts before your feet even hit the floor. And if you allow your thoughts, your emotions, or your circumstances to define your spirit, you'll walk through the day already under attack. That's why you've got to speak victory early before the distractions, before the meetings, before the noise. You've got to prophesy the outcome before you step into the challenge. Victory doesn't begin with evidence. It begins with a decision. You decide what today will become by the spirit you choose to carry into it. If you carry the spirit of fear, everything feels risky. If you carry the spirit of discouragement, everything feels heavy. But when you speak victory, when you say, I am more than a conqueror through Christ, this day is blessed. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Your spirit begins to rise before your problems even appear. This isn't about hype or pretending everything is fine. It's about knowing that you serve a victorious God. And because he reigns, you don't have to walk around like a slave to defeat. You're not begging for survival. You're walking in authority. And that authority starts with the words you speak. Hell responds to bold declarations. Heaven backs up faithful confessions. And when you speak victory early, you don't just hope for a good day, you command one. Morning prayer doesn't just change your day, it rewrites your outcomes. When you pray in the morning, you're not just preparing for what's coming, you're reshaping what's possible. Morning prayer is where divine reversals begin. It's where what was set up against you gets interrupted by the voice of heaven. It's where delays turn into sudden acceleration, where confusion gets replaced by direction, and where the things meant to take you down end up working in your favor. Morning prayer is not just a moment of peace. It's a meeting with the Most High to shift outcomes in your favor. You may have woken up thinking today would be just another ordinary day, but one intentional, faithful prayer can flip the script. Heaven listens to early risers not because God loves them more, but because they prioritize the power of divine timing. When you seek Him before anything else, you give Him full permission to go before you, make crooked paths straight, and reroute every trap the enemy set up in the dark morning. Prayer activates divine intervention, and divine intervention creates outcomes no spreadsheet could ever predict. You don't have to accept what yesterday tried to hand you. You don't have to live by what the world says is realistic. Morning prayer gives you access to supernatural possibilities. It puts you in position to receive miracles where others receive stress, to walk in favor where others walk in fear, and to make decisions led by the Spirit, not pushed by pressure. When you pray first, your day bends toward heaven's design. Favor flows to those who invite God in first, not last. Too many people treat God like an emergency contact instead of their daily commander. They run around making decisions, chasing deadlines, fighting battles, and when it all falls apart, then they ask for help. But favor doesn't operate in desperation. It flows in honor. And when you honor God first with your time, your voice, your thoughts, favor starts following you without a fight. God doesn't want to be your backup plan. He wants to be your foundation. When you invite Him in first thing in the morning, you set a standard for the entire day. You're saying, before I move, I ask. Before I decide, I align. Before I build, I submit. And heaven responds to that kind of surrender. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the kind of wisdom that opens doors that no man can shut and releases divine appointments that no hustle could have arranged. Favor chases the ones who choose God first. So let me break it down for you. This isn't just about praying a nice little morning devotional. This is about reordering your entire day with kingdom precision. You've just learned that the voice you agree with first will determine your direction. That when you start with God, you stop chasing and start attracting. That prayer is not religious ritual. It's the blueprint for breakthrough, that you either command your morning or the enemy corrupts it. That one moment in God's presence can do what your entire to-do list can't. That peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you pray into the room, that the world doesn't respond to routines. It responds to revelation. And if you're not speaking victory early, you've already allowed defeat to speak for you. You now know when you pray first, you don't just change how your day feels, you change what your day produces. And most of all, you've been reminded of this one undeniable law of divine favor. When you invite God in first, you don't have to beg later. Everything you want to become today starts with what you speak before the world starts pulling. So take this word, take this revelation, and make a decision. From now on, I rise differently. If this message just unlocks something inside your spirit, don't scroll past like this video, comment below. From this day forward, God goes first always. Share this with someone who needs to stop surviving mornings and start commanding them in faith. And listen, this is Myron Golden track, the place where kingdom warriors rise and reign. So don't just watch, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you never miss a kingdom drop. And if you're ready to go deeper where divine strategy, bold faith, and supernatural favor become your daily walk, then go ahead and join the membership today. Because favor chases the ones who choose God first. And you, my friend, just made the most powerful choice you could ever make, is you don't need to make a return chase.